The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Ben Ark from BTC IoT.
Shmai, everyone. Good evening.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one. Exclusive, large Bitcoin payments to right-wing activists 1 month before the Capitol riot linked to foreign account. On December 8th, someone made a simultaneous transfer of 28 Bitcoins worth more than $500,000 at the time to 22 different virtual wallets, most of them belonging to prominent right-wing organizations and personalities. Now, cryptocurrency researchers believe they have identified who made the transfer and suspect it was intended to bolster those far right-wing causes. U.S. law enforcement is also investigating whether or not the donations were linked to the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol. Ben Ark, your thoughts on these large Bitcoin payments?
The chain analysis, which they did on it, didn't say that it came from some French exchange. So if you're going to send, Bitcoin in a sort of pseudonymous way to something, and you want to maintain your privacy, then try not to do it from an exchange. That's probably a good idea. This is what Bitcoin's for, isn't it? It's to avoid censorship, and it's to give people some privacy when they can donate to whatever they want to donate to. In this particular circumstance, obviously, it was a bit of a shame that they were donating to people. But I mean, obviously, within Bitcoin, we have plenty of people who have a similar ideology to some of the people who were rioting in the Capitol. So it's to be expected. It's quite a large sum of money, and I bet they were a bit gutted about obviously the huge price pump shortly after they did donate. But it shows that someone's using Bitcoin for what it's meant to be used for. So that's I suppose the silver lining to the story. And then also, they would have lost a little bit of money there by sending it so early on. And it's just to be expected. That's what people use Bitcoin for. Yeah, muted, Thomas.
It got me that time. There's too many buttons right now to push. But yeah, I also think it's also possible. I think if Josh was here, he'd mention that this could be part of a plot to frame the right-wing activists for the attack on the Capitol. Remember, you can't refuse a Bitcoin transaction. So if they just happen to have wallets out there, this could have been publicly donated, even publicly planted. Of course, as we later find out, these wallets were probably not public wallets. These were probably private wallets doing private deals. And again, maybe they just got some money. It's interesting to me how much they're putting on the Bitcoin to track this. Once again, it's a bad currency for criminals. 22 accounts. We know where the Bitcoin came from. 28. All of the Bitcoin together, all going to these accounts. It almost seems like it's a signature, like they want you to follow it. Good criminals would not use this kind of trackable technology, that kind of thing. But then again, Bitcoin's always involved when there's crime. There's always involved with foreign intrigue and spy stuff and all that kind of thing. So I think it's a fun story about Bitcoin, even if it doesn't turn out later.
I mean, I did hear that SagePay is it SagePay? They've turned their back on Trump. They're not processing donations for him. I know that just within the business world and within banking, like Deutsche Bank has also stopped dealing with Trump. They were like one of the last banks to continue to deal with Trump. So maybe we'll see, someone like Trump using Bitcoin to accept donations. It kind of makes sense. But yeah, no, if it's a bit, originally with Bitcoin, obviously WikiLeaks was one of the main catalysts for Bitcoin. It scared Satoshi at the time, kicking the hornet's nest and all that. But if you can't have payments processed by banks or some payment processor like Sage Pay or whatever, then or PayPal, then Bitcoin is that's what the technology is for. So that's what people will use it for. But yeah, I imagine that I could imagine Trump accepting donations through Bitcoin coming very shortly, and that will also be good for the price, I imagine.
I just think it's interesting, the connection of Bitcoin and the Bitcoin/libertarian type community with the unrest at the Capitol. It's interesting to see how like a YouTube show like Baked Alaska or whatever platform he's on now, there's actually a video going around. You can see them when they're inside the Capitol, had all these pop-ups, all these donations. The chat room was going on. It reminded me very much of a Bitcoin chat room. To see them talk about Mastodon and Gab and Parler and all of these other technologies. They want to leave Twitter. They want to fight censorship, all that. It had so much in common with Bitcoin. So it was interesting to see that turn out. And it was interesting to see all of a sudden all the media and everyone else coming into this little space that usually it's just us. Also been a lot of interest in Signal this week. Their software right now, people are saying it's going slow and crashing. Hundreds of thousands of new users after being mentioned by Elon Musk, as well as what Apple's been doing to WhatsApp, making them label all the different things that Facebook's looking at if you install that software. So it's interesting to see suddenly people care.
You're gonna make me do a screen share here, Thomas. So this week I haven't done that much Bitcoin stuff. I've been mucking about with FiatJaff's Nostar protocol, NOSTR, which is it's notes and other stuff, relays. So it's clients. So your application, your Twitter, whatever, is just a client, and then messages and posts are just sent through these relays. The concept is you get censorship resistance and decentralization through it being very easy to spin up one of these relays. So they're kind of almost inconsequential. They're just routing information. They're just routing notes. But I'm gonna do a screen share. I'm gonna show you what I've done so far. Oh, there we are. Look at that craziness. Okay, so can you see that? You can see. Can you see my terminal? I can't hear you. Can you see my terminal?
Yes, it's scrolling.
Yeah.
Infinite
scroll. Yeah, maybe I should just put Google for a second. There we are. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to spin up Nostar, and I'm going to show it you. That should work. Okay. So yeah, so I've been building a client for this, and it's cool. It kind of almost works, like Twitter would work. And I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty happy with the GUI. I haven't quite finished. Oh, there we are. Sorry, a bit of swearing there. That's me trying to get it to work yesterday. So you can write like a post about something. I don't know. What shall I write? I'll just do a bit of squiggly, and then I can publish that post. And then now that post has been sent to a relay, and then anyone who's following my public key will just get that post. So at the moment it's a little bit goofy because you don't have like at Thomas or at Ben Ark or whatever. You have a public key and a private key. In fact, I'm even going to show you that, setting that up. So if I delete my local storage here, when I create an account on my Nostar client, you can use a BIP39 seed, and then I can save this seed, and that's like my access to my account. I click continue. It creates a Schnorr private key and public key, and then I continue. I'm going to store that in my local storage. And then I've made a little identicon of so that's my public key, basically. I can actually click on that and get a profile. If I go back, and then I can say something and publish. And then for some reason, I don't know why this is doing this, but for some reason I need to refresh to get that first published post to stay up there. There we are. Yeah, and I've even built in or starting to build in private messages. So if I'm following someone, I can click on private messages, I can click on them, and then it's end-to-end encrypted. So I use my private key, their public key, and they use my public key and their private key, and then you smush them together, and that gives us a shared secret which we can use to encrypt and then decrypt messages to each other. So that's what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks, or the past week in particular. I've been it's a shame I'm not following anyone to kind of like show you the messages, being sent between accounts. That's what I've been doing. I've been playing around with this sort of idea of a decentralized, censorship resistant Twitter, not because I'm a far right activist and I want to be able to put hate up on there or anything, but something like Twitter, it should be a public utility. It shouldn't be owned by a private company. And if it is owned by a private company, then you are inevitably going to have censorship and things happen which you don't agree with, because it's within the company's interest to do those things in order to hold public opinion. So yeah, we need these tools. That's why we need something like Bitcoin. And yes, criminals can use it, and radically minded people can use it. Of course, the terrorists can use it. But they're the innovators. They're the ones who they're utilizing that technology because they need it more than anyone else now. But then for everybody else, it gives us a greater ability to have privacy by these tools being designed and being innovated. So it's a shame that it's almost a shame that it empowers them. But then in another way, the trade-off, we shouldn't be giving that information shouldn't be centralized by trusted third parties, and in a way which we're reliant upon them and their opinions, and they can use all our data in all these horrible ways. So really excited about that, really excited about Nostar Protocol, really excited about Signal and all these other good free and open source alternatives which are getting attention, like Mastodon, for example. So it's great. I mean, over this whole COVID experience, we've all become more digitally native, and I do think that normal people are getting a lot more aware of privacy and digital privacy, and I do think that that's had a lot of impact on Bitcoin and people becoming a bit more accepting of a technology like Bitcoin. So yeah, just looking forward to more and more of these solutions being developed.
Well, I do think it's good we're going towards these solutions. I also think that it's disastrous and we're repeating the same thing over and over again. There's this idea that unverified, unrestrained free speech is a good thing. And it seems every time we set up a community to test this theory, like 4chan or 8chan or 8kun or whatever the new nasty, dirty underground Tor community is, we always find out the same thing, that no one likes this dirty, awful hate speech. No one likes this sludge. No one wants to make their company about presenting this sludge. No one wants to make their life about, I make that sludge possible. Even look at this Parler guy. He was on TV. They're destroying my life. They're destroying my life. All these companies are cutting me off. No one will work with me. Well, you make the sludge, right? You make the sludge machine. No one wants to deal with the dirty sludge. And there are people out there right now that are like, oh, I like the sludge. The sludge is what excites me about society. It makes things dirty and fun. But then it comes home to their house. And we had that this week, where all the senators and the Congress people and the ones who've been having all this fun, making all the sludge, putting out the big lies, had the threats. They had the fear. They had the people pounding on the door right outside their office. So I don't think that anyone wants this. I think that, yes, technically, I think that there should be a layer. We should make it possible. Like you're saying, this information needs to be a protocol. One of the things I found so puzzling about a week ago is that Chancellor Merkel was upset with Twitter. And she was like, I'm not sure it's right that Twitter can ban Trump. And she was acting as if Twitter was some kind of public square, that the internet was a public square. And yes, things at a protocol level, things like email, could be a public square. Anyone could put their messages into the protocol. You could take them out if you want. You could have a filter system to get rid of all that sludge, which is what's going to happen. Most people are going to run the no sludge filter. But I do think that protocol will be there. Maybe something similar to the way the Steemit blockchain was set up, not the crazy 3 coins and the interest and all that, but the idea of putting all your data on a blockchain or a database or whatever, a big string of text, and then reading it back in, and that the reading is the client, that it is the thing.
I don't know, man. I think so much of the world's problems you can put down to just surveillance capitalism, just people, companies trying to make money by gamifying the way we interact with each other in a way which benefits them commercially. And no one knows the impact which that's going to have on the world and is having on the world, and how much of some of the upheaval we've had has been, could it just be that? So if you can remove those economic incentives by these big companies, yes, obviously, I don't know. I mean, there is always an argument of, you know, if you give people privacy, then it allows for these horrible, you know, degenerates to interact with each other in a private way. But that's just a side effect of everybody having privacy, which is, you know, why we're interested in things like Bitcoin. We're interested in the work of the people like the cypherpunks, for example. And you know, without their work, with the cypherpunk work, and making public cryptography, you know, fighting the original crypto wars, and allowing everyone to have the ability to encrypt and decrypt information through the internet, we wouldn't have things like, you know, online banking and stuff. So we wouldn't have any way of transacting or sending information in a private way. And normal people, they do so, like WhatsApp or do you remember the I'm sort of being scatty here, but do you remember when BlackBerry gave people the ability to send encrypted messages to each other? And there was this big news cycle about how it's been used by terrorists and blah, blah, blah. But now I think most people, you know, appreciate a platform like Telegram where you have some encryption. And I have some normie friends who are kind of pissed off with WhatsApp that it's in the hands of Facebook now, and they feel that their data isn't private like it was before. I don't think you can try and parent you know, the baddies into behaving better by stripping theirs and everybody else's privacy away from them, even if I completely disagree with, you know, their worldviews.
What I think the issue here is not a problem with privacy, but sadly with the people and the larger society that you're giving that privacy. I think that a failure of education, a failure of incentives, people don't know, you know, what to do with their lives. People don't know how to act. They don't know not to destroy things just for fun. That kind of attitude is pervasive. And once that goes, you give those people the privacy and you think that they're going to do beautiful things with it. They're going to communicate encrypted and freely. They're going to talk to their friends. They're going to talk about their issues or their problems without fear of it ever getting out and ruining their lives or ruining their jobs or that kind of thing. But really, they just go and they have these nasty communities and they act out the worst parts of themselves. And it builds and it builds and it builds. And then we have this, you know, explosion in the capital.
But that's you know, that's a small, you know, microcosm of the larger proportion of people using those technologies. And really, you know, all of these privacy enhancing technologies are stripping power away from the masses of mankind. You know, the heavy state, or if there was some horrible authoritarian figure who were to, you know, authoritarian regime were to get into power, then, you know, which doesn't like, I don't know, people who use Bitcoin, for example, then they're unable to ban Bitcoin. You know, they're unable to stop people from using it. People can use it, and it's similar with, you know, these technologies. We're almost building the tools which slowly strip away the power of state, of big corporations, which then, you know, empowers the users more.
I just don't know that it empowers them to the outcomes or the gains that we want. But I do agree it's going to empower them. It's unstoppable. It's happening. These protocols, this idea will be developed. The real internet, like Jack was saying in his tweet, will show itself. But again, I think that if we really stop and think about it, I know everybody's, oh, it's a slippery slope. It'll go to totalitarianism if you don't do what I say, and da 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 da. But if we really think about it, this dirty speech is not good, and we're always going to filter it out, and it's always going to lead to problems. And it's really easy to say, oh, your son got radicalized and they got put into there and the dirty speech. But we do have examples of this. We have that guy who traveled over state lines to bring his gun out at the protest and then end up shooting 2 people. So it happens pretty fast. The radical.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, a lot. I mean, what's that that Netflix documentary everyone talks about with the social networks, and they have that great example of the young kid. The social dilemma. That's it. Yeah, and they have that great example of that young kid being radicalized, and so much of those problems, they're not just, you know, people going out of their way to look for these radical opinions. These radical opinions are being thrown at them because it keeps their attention a little bit longer, so companies can sell shit to them. So yeah, no, I think a lot of the issue is around the surveillance capitalism, the keeping people's attention and gamifying communication, which you can remove like Nostar, for example. I mean, you get the posts of the people you follow, and it's not a case of there's some algorithm checking how long you linger on each tweet to then show you more of the tweets from that person, because I'll linger on something quite radical just because it kind of shocks me or whatever, and then I'll get more tweets from that radical person. That won't happen with a protocol solution which has no interest in doing that, a client which you control and isn't being controlled by some company trying to make a quick buck. There's a couple of questions actually in the chat which I wanted to address. So what's the incentive? So one of them was on the Nostar thing. What's the incentive for nodes to run for the relay nodes? They're just so inconsequential. You can just spin it up. Like, I could spin up like 10 little relay nodes, and it doesn't cost me anything. And there is the Nostar could be used for a whole bunch of other applications where they could build in some financial incentive, but or maybe So an idea I had is, say, if you wanted to secure your profile, get a little blue tick, then with a handle, so like at Ben Ark, for example, I could take my handle, I could take my public key, I could create a Bitcoin address out of them, send some sats to it, and then broadcast that proof to the relay, and then the relay that would be proof that I've secured that handle, and then I could have that handle, and I could say, look, I did that before anybody else, so now I've got the handle, and then the relay could offer that service for like an amount of Bitcoin, for example. That would work. There's plenty of ways people could make some money on it, but I think generally it's just so easy and cheap to spin these things up. Like, why wouldn't you? And then what was the other one? There's someone mentioned a game called September 12. Anyway, but so I'm really excited. I'm really excited about all the attention which these free and open source alternatives are getting, and it's more people falling away from Twitter and these centralized third-party solutions.
I do think eventually we'll go to an alias system like they had in the Neil Stephenson book Fall, or Doge in Hell, which you should all read. But in Fall, they talked about how after the breakdown of the network and the breakdown of truth, that no one believed in truth, what they would do is kind of have what Ben's talking about, where instead of having a personality like Thomas Hunt, Thomas Hunt would be a encryption key. And if there was someone else, let's say John Smith, and Ben and I wanted to work together to publish a paper under the name John Smith, we would then both have like the halves of that encryption key, and we would be that personality. And that would be our representation, our alias. Thus, that alias could go out and have a bunch of jobs, do a bunch of work, but really that alias is a company. It's a dozen people.
That's something I'm super excited about, man. Like with the keys, with Nostar using public keys, you could have multi-sig. So one of the options, I don't know if you saw it, but I'm storing the keys just on my local device on my computer or whatever when I'm in Nostar, but you could technically store them on hardware wallets, and you could have a multi-sig. So if you have a company and you have it's like a Nostar, a Twitter account for a company, for example, you could have like 3 people signing off messages from hardware wallets, or someone like Trump, for example, like the president, or some. It scares me that these political leaders are on something like Twitter, and if their accounts got hacked, and if for some reason they didn't notice for a few hours, they could cause the hackers could cause a war. They could send a few private messages to the wrong people.
They did get hacked, but it was just that clown guy. He didn't know how to start a war or how to get lots of money.
Thank God.
Bitcoin addresses with the same message. If he
good.
All you had to do is get into the DMs, and you take over Arnold Schwarzenegger's account, and you write to all of his celebrity friends, say you need help, put the Bitcoin address in there. People wouldn't have even found out for days. Like, you could have done
that's true.
All kinds of smarter things they could have done.
Thank goodness you're not a black hat, Thomas.
Oh, no. Well, it's about reading books and these plots. But what you could do with these aliases is if I want newspaper articles, and so I would pay a writer, right? Well, if I'm paying a alias that's actually a team of writers, or an alias that's actually 3 editors who will go out and hire the writers, and every time the articles come back, fine. I don't care how they're generating it. I just pay that alias. I have a relationship with that alias. I give them like the eBay favorites treatment, 5 stars. They have a little rating, and you just carry that around with you in the world. And in the book, they talked about how her and her friends had built up this alias, and when she went to get a job using the alias, her mother didn't even know it was her applying for the job, because she'd used the alias. Yet her mother was able to judge their work and do all this stuff because it was all tied to the alias. Well, I think we've drifted far off topic here, Ben. So we're going to go to the exit question. Will there be definitive proof that Bitcoin was behind the right-wing attack on the U.S. Capitol? Yes or no?
Good God, wouldn't that be a news story? Yeah, I mean, I hope so, because it'll be people using Bitcoin for what Bitcoin's supposed to be used for.
The answer is no. No, there will not be definitive proof. As much fun as it would be for Bitcoin and for the other stories, it's always going to be this kind of shadowy proof. No one's really going to accept it. But with any large action like the action at the Capitol, the money had to come from somewhere. And as more and more of that seems to be an organized event, more and more we're going to look and try to find out where the money is. Moving on to issue 2. $1.9 trillion relief package. Many Bitcoiners were celebrating the other day, including those at CoinDesk.com. CoinDesk celebrated the Biden relief plan that had been announced, but they didn't get what they wanted. They were all excited that they were printing money and that the Bitcoiners were correct.
There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
However, the promise of endless and exciting money printing did not ignite the Bitcoin market, the price actually going down instead. Ben Ark, before we start, if we have to do the in-between things. Oh, he didn't do the in-between things. Okay, so Ben, hold on. We've got to say everyone needs to like the show.
Yes.
We were going to show your QR code. So
show me QR code.
Here's the QR code.
All right, so
first they have to like the show before they learn about the QR code. So thanks to everybody for liking the show, subscribing down below, and now get out your Lightning wallets. Hopefully you watched my little short presentation. You got the wallet of Satoshi. You got LN Strike. You're sending around your Lightning payments. You're practicing because this is it. Tell them what to do, Ben.
Right. So every minute, that little QR code is going to spit out 500 sats. So if you get your wallet of Satoshi out, your blue wallet out, give it a scan. Your BLW wallet, of course, everyone should have BLW wallet. It's the best wallet out there for Lightning. And I think, I don't know, Phoenix, Zeus, I think the rest of them. Every minute it will spit out 500 sats. So we should just leave that up there. Just leave it up there. I've already just drained it, so we'd have to wait a minute for it to spit out 500 sats again.
Scan it, but you can open a different window. But there you go. So check that out. Give us a thumbs up and a share. Try out the Lightning Network. Now back to issue 2. Ben Ark, why didn't the Bitcoin market go up if Joe Biden is going to be printing $2 trillion?
There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
That's a lot.
Stability. So, I think now Trump is going to let power pass across peacefully, hopefully, and Biden's going to be in power. And I think that people understand there will be a little bit more stability in the markets, in the traditional markets. So the people who are trading Bitcoin, again, Bitcoin is being used for what it's supposed to be used for, unstable times. The world became really very unstable, visually very unstable with all the riots in the Capitol in the US. I think a lot of people were attracted to Bitcoin because it's a hedge for uncertainty and it's outside of traditional finance. And at the last weekend, it felt like the whole world was on fire, or it felt like the world economy could be in some serious trouble. So Biden's relief package, I think, as much as Bitcoiners don't like excessive money printing, I think for a lot of people it just represents some stability, which means that there's less need to be using Bitcoin. So yeah, I can see why the Bitcoin price, yes, a lot of Bitcoiners are like, oh my God, they're printing money, Bitcoin's going to shoot up because hyperinflation. But a lot of normal people are just like, oh, okay, the guy's going to bail out some companies and it will stop the traditional finance world collapsing in on itself, and we don't really need this Bitcoin thing for now.
I think Ben's right. It's about stabilization, and it's also about investments that you could get other than Bitcoin. Instead of Bitcoin, you could get Tesla, you could get anything in the legacy market, all of which are buoyed by this $2 trillion. It's going to people. They're going to buy things. Hopefully it'll re-charge the economy, get the vaccine going, all those kind of things. So I think there's a general optimism that's going to cause people to move over to the stock market and traditional investments rather than this kind of panic and fear that sadly are good for the Bitcoin market. We're in the chaos business. What's that movie? Our Brand is Crisis. That's our Bitcoin brand, right? And no one likes it. Like a couple of weeks ago when we had that thing in the Capitol, Bitcoin was going crazy and everyone was happy except the people that were watching the thing in the Capitol because they were saying, my God, we've got a crisis. Like this is serious. Like this is unsafe. They're freaking out. Everyone else, whoa, money, Bitcoin, yay. So sadly, I think it's always going to be that way. I think we're always going to be standing in the middle of the crisis saying like, everyone stop being crisisy, like slow down, like let's be reasonable.
But it's interesting because I was worried, you know, when the Trump was pumping all the share prices, the stock prices, and all the stocks, US stocks were going up, and then at the same time, you know, Bitcoin was also going up, and I think that partly why it was going up was there are a lot of people out there who understood could see it was fake, that he was pumping those stocks and shares in a way which was unstable, and that's why they were hedging out into Bitcoin. Whereas I do think with someone like Biden, is a little bit more level-headed, and like you say, you're more likely to get fiscal stimulus and actual benefits to production capacity and aggregate demand, as opposed to just making numbers look big to prove that you are in fact having a beneficial impact on all these companies and on the share market, having a beneficial impact on the country. So Trump was all about the numbers, whereas I think this $2 trillion will be a bit more level-headedly allocated.
I also want to go back to the idea that the Bitcoin market is still not very big. And as much as it's gotten incredibly huge since our early days, and if you've been here a while, it seems insanely big to you, it's still pretty small, and a handful of whales could move this market. I heard people say that around 40K, some big whale sold a lot. It went all the way down to 30K, at which point other whales ate up the sell from that big whale. So if this is really the actions of one person or 10 to 12 people, a handful of people, Bitcoin's going to keep doing these moves that don't make sense, that don't line up with the news, that don't line up with the triangles and the charts and all those things. But if you look at the long term, it does look like a diagonal line straight up. I saw a graphic recently. They said, the trend is your friend. So the trend is your friend. I'll bet everybody's trying to scan this QR code now, Ben, but not that many of them have hit the like button. Looks like we have about 44 live viewers and about 25 likes. So we're only about halfway there. So you still got time to hit that like button. Let's see, exit question for the relief package. I don't know, just generally Biden plans more relief packages in the future, continued money printing. In the long term, is a Democratic administration good or bad? Mainly for the price of Bitcoin, but let's go generally for Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally, obviously, the Bitcoin price is going to ebb up slowly. I think it'll probably happen in a less pumpy way, with a bit more stability. I do urge everyone out there. I know as Bitcoiners are very binary, and we're like, hard currency, hard currency great, soft currency evil and bad and terrible. But I really do. I mean, it's something people will be hearing a lot of now, which is the modern monetary theory stuff. I do urge that people go out and research that stuff like off their own back and research it properly with an open mind, because there's the what's his name, Warren Mosler, the guy who came up with the concept of modern monetary theory, the rules which apply to businesses and to household finance, they don't apply to a sovereign country printing their own currency. So they can't go bankrupt. They can just print more money. Yes, they can cause something like hyperinflation, but if you have a huge deficit, which you can have a huge deficit, and you're creating fiscal stimulus and you're improving the economy, then you can a lot of our economies where we have, a sovereign currency can be pushed a lot harder than they are. The deficits can be a lot bigger, and that can have a beneficial impact both on public sector, but then also if you've got deficit in public sector, you have surplus in private sector. So it's actually also good for the private sector too. So it's almost like upgrading an economy from 4G to 5G by using soft currency properly, as opposed to trying to apply like hard currency thinking to a soft currency, like the fiat US dollar or whatever. So I'm pretty excited to see how people will be using soft currencies, and I think that they'll become more federated, more decentralized. But yes, honestly, people don't just dismiss all that stuff. Go and read up on it for yourself, and then form an opinion on it. But I actually think it's quite a fascinating subject. But obviously, also, in saying that, hard currency has a hell of a lot of benefits and values, and should definitely exist in our society, particularly as a way for people to secure, money in a way which is not in the hands of or control of a country or state or whatever.
Well, given the last 40 to 50 years of economic history, I want to throw out the idea that the left or the right is better or worse for the deficit. I want to say that both sides in America spend money and increase the deficit. There is no difference. Now, however, I think that the Republicans gave the money to the rich. They continued this trickle down theory despite all the evidence showing it not working. So I look forward to abandoning that idea. If Biden's money goes to anybody but the rich, I think it'll have a better effect on the economy. It'll have more of a spreading the money around effect, and it'll actually make a better economy, which will be good for everyone, including the rich. So I think we're going up here, both for the stock market and for Bitcoin, price-wise, and so on and so forth. The uncertainty of the Trump administration, probably will be gone in a week, looking like it'll be gone in a week. There'll be lots of other uncertainty and lots of fun out there, no doubt. But it does look, if we get rid of some uncertainty, business cools down, we get this vaccine going, get the COVID out of the economy, and boom, boom. On the other side, though, Ben, do you think there'll be any real improvements for Bitcoin? The Trump administration, for all of their business savvy and business interests and background, they never got into Bitcoin. They never really came to it. For all of the, we're putting cryptocurrency in the cabinet stories that we talked about, it never really happened. Do you think there'll be any change policy wise? Are they going to start adopting Bitcoin? Are they going to lighten it up on the banks? Does the administration even affect this? Is this more like just banking regulation and lobbying?
Maybe it'll be the reverse to what you said before. Maybe 2021 will be like, obviously, everything will be better. We'll have COVID vaccines, and we'll have more stable economies and everything, and we've gotten rid of instability via someone like Trump, for example, and everyone will be happy and skipping around, holding hands, come by our, and then the Bitcoin price will be tanking, and us lot will all be miserable and wishing for the uncertainty to come back in the back of our minds. I don't know. But no, I mean, he's going to have to adopt Bitcoin, isn't he, Trump? Because, like I said before, he's going to struggle to accept donations if all these payment processors won't process them. So, Bitcoin's an obvious alternative. And if you saw that, these far right guys getting their 28 Bitcoins or whatever donated to them, then maybe he will adopt Bitcoin. So, yeah.
I don't know that we'll see much improvement. Obama and Biden, previously, Obama had said that Bitcoin was like having a Swiss bank account in your pocket, which I thought was a great selling point and an advertisement for the currency, but he meant that as a negative.
Yeah, I think for most citizens, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I imagine Biden's the same. He thinks that Bitcoiners are tax thieves and so on. And the IRS has already changed their form. The number one question on the top is, do you trade cryptocurrency? And it's been pretty funny to be in this for a little while. In the beginning, Bitcoin wasn't even money, and now it's the number one question on the form. So I think the government knows about cryptocurrency. They're interested in it. I don't think we're going to see any major adoption here. Maybe if Andrew Yang was president, or someone more technical, Jack Dorsey, even Zuckerberg, maybe we'd see more movement on the Bitcoin then. But I think we're going to be pretty much in the middle to not caring on the Bitcoin, which again is probably good. Like we want 4 years of being left alone Even at the end, the Trump guys were kind of sniffing around Bitcoin. This Mnuchin wanting to change the treasury, change the way that money laundering is handled on Bitcoin. That's still out there. That could still happen. They're taking comments. That's something that continues despite changes of administration. But I don't think that Biden's necessarily driving a negative policy on Bitcoin, just as I didn't think Trump was necessarily running a positive policy. I don't think they care. So moving on. Screen share. Oh yeah, I don't do screen share anymore. This is so confusing. All right. There it is. Boom. Check out shop.worldcryptonetwork.com where you can get the Trezors Don't Float t-shirt. Look, it's huge. Or the World Crypto Network mug, just like the mug that I'm using right here in the real world. Whoa. You can get those at shop.worldcryptonetwork.com. Issue 3, Lost Bitcoins. Man who binned hard drives storing $200 million in Bitcoin offers the local council 25% to search the landfill site. And in America, lost passwords lock millionaires out of their Bitcoin fortunes. Well, at least this one guy. He's got more than $220 million locked in a Bitcoin wallet. He's only got 2 more chances to guess the password. Otherwise, he's out of luck. The media loves these stories. They love to talk about the trash can, the landfill Bitcoin, and now they love this lost password Bitcoin. But why do they love them? Because it's lots of money? Do they love them because it's a chance to say negative things about Bitcoin? What is it about these lost Bitcoin stories that makes them come back every single cycle? Ben Ark.
I mean, they're just engaging the audience. I mean, everyone can empathize with that poor guy in Newport, who lost that laptop in 2013, and now those Bitcoins are worth an absolutely eye-watering amount of money. Every human being can empathize with that. So yeah, it's a good news story. Newport's just down the road from me, and it's almost like the Bitcoin blockchain as well. As time wears on, more shit gets dumped on top of the pile, for which that you need to then dig through to try and find that laptop. And him being able to recover those funds gets harder and harder. He'd have to do more work to be able to recover those funds. So I mean, I should probably reach out to the guy and see if I can get him on for an interview or something, or hook up with him, because he's just literally down the road. I lived in Newport for a few years, actually, way before Bitcoin. So yeah, Costa del Newport in South Wales. It's quite a place.
Let's go story by story. So I want to talk about the landfill guy, because that comes up every single cycle.
Because every cycle, because the number goes up, doesn't it? Like when you first heard about it, it's like it's got £10 million or something in some laptop.
It was nothing. It was nothing in the landfill at first. It was like, oh, I've lost 10,000, or oh, I've lost 20 grand. It's like a bad poker loss, right? Like a bad gambling weekend, or really, really bad gambling weekend, obviously. But stock market loss or a retirement account loss. But it gets worse and worse. So it's interesting to hear that one talked about over and over again. I think it, like Ben said, yes, it's definitely going to come back. It's a human interest story. But that one really seems open and shut. He should get with that company, put the money together, put up the fund. It's like an insurance issue. It's like if they find the thing, you get lots of money. If they don't find the thing, you lose. So it's like any other treasure hunting operation. They should buy the landfill from the town council. I can't believe someone hasn't bought it from them already. Obviously, I guess they need the landfill. Strategically, they need it. So maybe you'd have to provide a separate landfill or just buy the section. But it seems like, the guy puts it in the trash. He lives in a certain place. It goes to a certain landfill. Seems pretty open and shut. That's where it would be. It's possible it could have been intercepted along the way, like the Jawas. Someone could have gotten it. Some kind of garbage hard drive guy could have gotten it, just reformatted it, completely destroyed it. It's gone forever. But yeah, this story is going to come back. It's fun. Now this other one's a news story, and it has a bit of a wiggle in it, a little bit of a ripple, if you will, Ben. Have you heard? So this guy with the $220 million was apparently paid 7,000 Bitcoin to make Ripple into a tipping currency. He was supposed to make a tipping app or something for Ripple. So this is actually Ripple's money. So this is a little different. He was paid it, then he lost the password. What do you think about Password Guy in San Francisco?
I mean, bounties, Bitcoin bounties. I've done a few Bitcoin bounties for LNBit stuff, and I think one of the bounties I did was like 0.1 or something a while ago, and it wasn't that much money. But now it's like, oh goodness me! I actually saw Schillerbrand on Twitter, and he did a 0.1. God bless him. He did two 0.1 bounties for someone to review Taproot proposal, I think. But I mean, I think that was when Bitcoin was at like $3,000 or something. So, it's not it's a large amount of money, but it's not like an eye-watering amount of money. But now it is an eye-watering amount of money. So yeah, you'll be careful paying people in Bitcoin. It's a terrible, terrible way of paying people because you end up really regretting it later on.
I'm not sure that Ripple got the project. I'm not sure that he delivered on it. So there might be kind of a karmic thing that's locking those Bitcoins in there. If he didn't make them the tipping project, if he didn't deliver, does he deserve to get paid? I mean, there's what's kind of lightning bolt on those.
How is he? What's he using? Cold card or something? Like how? I don't understand how he loses the Bitcoin if he tries the wrong password again. What's he? It must be maybe cold card bricks out, doesn't it?
It was called something like iron hold or something. I imagine that it's a hard drive encryption program. And again, I'm not 100% technical, but my first idea was, why don't you just make a copy of this hard drive, then try the keys on the copy, and then if it erases your chances, now you have 2 more chances times infinity because you can keep making new hard drives. So I don't understand why he can't just forensically make an exact copy of the thing.
Yeah.
There are tools, even I had access to them at the law firm, where you can access a drive without damaging a drive. So if you're worried about the drive being, changed or something, I think you could replicate it. So I don't understand technically that part. Maybe someone can explain that to me. Because yeah, you should get more than 2 chances. I feel sad. I think about the chain of it. So the guy, he loses access. That's probably that's tries number 1, 2, and 3, right? Then he gives up for a couple of years. Bitcoin goes up the first time. He comes back and puts in, try 5, 6, 7, gives up again. Then Bitcoin goes up a whole lot more. He tries number 8. I don't know how he's getting these tries. He's like doing dream therapy. He's writing down stuff. I don't know. He's going to somehow, because at some point your mind looked at a piece of paper, and now that piece of paper is worth $220 million. If you can get your mind to remember that piece of paper, and it isn't just this guy, there's lots of people that have this story, probably for lots less money. But then he's up to 8 tries. Now I figure he goes to the New York Times, and that's the round that we're in now, where he's going to try to get technical help, and hopefully somebody can fix this. And obviously they're going to get a share of it. Earlier, I think there's a lot of fear, and probably if he wanted to have it clean, like he's never going to be a clean 220 millionaire. He's going to be a public 220 millionaire if he cracks it. But the other idea is, originally you would take it to some computer shop or something, and they'll steal it from you. So there's a lot of fear about that. There's a lot of trust issues. Now that it's a public thing, it's kind of like the dump thing, where I think he should just be selling shares in it. He should be selling a treasure hunt. Can I get the code or not? And then he could at least profit from the shares and stuff. I
wonder if these people like have, if they try things like hypnosis and things to try and I'll be honest, right?
Man.
I haven't really spoken about this, but a very long time when I first heard about Bitcoin, like I don't want to be one of them fucking, sorry, swearing. I don't want to be one of those people who are like, oh, I've been with Bitcoin since, 2002. But in Britain, we had like quite an active Bitcoin news cycle. So I think a lot of Britons heard about Bitcoin pretty early on, which is, accounts for this guy with his laptop in Newport. There's a chance I downloaded Bitcoin client and ran it. I forget a lot of things, and I was really interested in Bitcoin. It must have been like 2010 or something, and I did a load of research on the internet, and I'm pretty sure I downloaded the Bitcoin. I don't know if I ran it. I don't know if I did tried mining any Bitcoin. I could have. I might have. I don't know. And I try and rack my brain sometimes as to whether I did or not, because at the time it would have just been nothing, and I would have forgotten about it. And maybe I did. I don't know. But I think as the price goes up, more and more people. Maybe if it I don't know what my price is, but maybe if it's like £1 million of Bitcoin or something, then maybe I'll try and find some hypnotist to tell me whether I did or not, whether it's just a fantasy dream thing. But the real question is like, what's Newport City Council's price? Because he's offering them 50 million at the moment if they can find these things, and he's also got this in company who are offering to invest 2.5 million in trying to excavate these bitcoins. They trust the guy. He's obviously provided some sort of proof. What is the City of Newport's price? Maybe when Bitcoin is more accepted and councils start accepting it for tax payments and countries are mining it and all this other stuff, then maybe they will excavate it. But this is like it's kind of like gold, isn't it? It's a bearer asset and it has a lot of the qualities gold has. So people end up securing it in a way like they make treasure maps and they do all this sort of craziness to try and secure it in a way which their family will be able to find after they've died, or someone they like will be able to find after. And then people lose them and they get buried and then they have to dig them up, and it's just like treasure hunting. It's just like searching for gold. So it's very interesting. But what's the price in Newport City Council?
This has got to be it. They've got to take this money. Before they could say, oh, Bitcoin's not real money or it's dirty drug money, or they could just disbelieve the guy. Maybe this is just a crazy guy wants to dig up our dump. It's not exactly safe. He's out there digging with a shovel. It can't go. But if he gets that firm behind him, if he raised the money and does the insurance and everything that I think he can easily do, they've got to take it. They've got to take the money. So I don't know what they're waiting for. They should take it. But as far as the idea about me having some ancient Bitcoin mining machine, unfortunately or fortunately, I had a Mac PC issue, so I never got to run the early Bitcoin client when I read about it. But I do feel, and I hope everyone in the audience can join me, I feel like I and many other people have dodged being ridiculously rich at every turn. And if there are multiple realities, every single other reality of Thomas is just ridiculously rich, like on a beach, goofing off, not doing any work at all, not serving humanity at all. And they're all laughing at that one, C138 Thomas, the one that still has to work and worry about things. So I'm sure a lot of you guys feel that way. We've just dodged it. We could have held here. We could have sold there. We could have mined early. We could have just all these different things. New currencies come out. You don't buy them. You make fun of them instead. All these kind of things. But I still think that we're having great fun and we're having a great ride here on ALC 138.
This is partly one of the worst things about the technology, though, isn't it? Because I know some people who did have a lot of Bitcoin early on, and then for whatever reason they didn't think much of it, whatever, they lost their private keys and whatever. But they still have the public key, so they can go look at it and they say, "There's my Bitcoin right there. There's my X thousands of Bitcoin. I can't move them, can't do anything with them, but there they are." And there's not other bearer assets like that. If you lose your gold, then it's not a case you can still look at the gold, but you just can't do anything with it. It just stays there.
That's funny too, because no one else can use it. The money's just locked there forever. You could even tell the world. You could be like, "Hey, look at these Bitcoin." You could have an auger or something. You could bet against it. You'd be like, "I'll bet they don't move. I'll bet they never move." But again, it's not a popular bet. You're not going to get enough action, So yeah, there's a lot of those out there. And then I don't even want to go back and look at old wallets. That's the other thing, is that your receipts of all your horrible choices are all out there. And if we had the right software, we could very easily look at our nightmare. But I'm going to leave that. We don't need that. So I think that's about it. We're out of issues. Did you guys drain the faucet? Did you get it all?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it's been hit multiple times, which is nice. I mean, there's partly why it's nice to do this is because I can see any issues which pop up using LNURL, because LNURL is just a standard for Lightning wallets to do some get and post requests to make Lightning kind of feel less goofy, so you can pull payments. So when you scan it, your wallet is sending a get request to the server, and the server's sending back, make me an invoice for X amount. And then your wallet makes an invoice for X amount. Then it sends the invoice back, and then the server then pays the invoice. So, but for you, all you've done is you've just scanned the QR code, and then boom, you get some money. So it's a brilliant way to make Lightning a lot more, give it more different ways in which you can use it. I've used LN bits to make that LNURL faucet. But a lot of wallets, because it's a standard and a protocol, and it's kind of a little bit fringe almost, like some wallets haven't implemented it correctly, or they've implemented it a different way to other wallets. and they haven't followed the protocol, as well as they should have. So occasionally we get a few bugs, and maybe you can't pull the funds. So it's good to see people testing different wallets with it. It's great. So thanks. That was a bounty for people testing wallets. And maybe years from now I'll watch this video back and I'll be like, oh, what was I doing? Why was I giving away all that Bitcoin? It's just insane.
Everything. And that's especially true with the giving out dollars or giving out $10 or whatever we've given people. Speaking of giving out money, if you've got some extra Bitcoin, you could donate right now to our new wallet fund. We are 5.37% of the way there. We've raised around $75 towards our goal of $1,400. And don't worry, we have lots of time. It sounds like they're going to make new MacBooks halfway through the year. So I'm probably going to wait for that anyway. So donate now. Give us a thumbs up and a share. Subscribe down below. We're trying to get 100,000 subscribers for the World Crypto Network. I think that the price of Bitcoin would go to $100,000 if we had 100,000 subscribers. So tell your friends. They don't even have to watch it. They just have to get a new account, push subscribe. If you have one of those scripty things, maybe you could just script up a bunch of YouTube accounts. Not saying you should do that, but if that happened, we'd have more subscribers. Anything like that. Ben, do you have a prediction or a story of the week?
Prediction is story of the week. I've just been working on that Nostar thing like crazy. And I think it'll be finished this weekend, which is great, and I can't wait to put it out there and for people to play around with it. It will feel a bit like MVP, obviously, because it's just you're still using a public key as opposed to like a fancy handle, but we will be able to what's great about the protocol is we can just add new note types. So one of those new note types could be securing a handle, and there could be a range of proofs. Like one proof we thought about was, if you wanted to transfer a Twitter handle, maybe you could literally just send a tweet out from your account saying, this is my public key. And then we could then use that in Nostar, your handle from Twitter. And I did even think about maybe some sort of import function. So it would then just go and fetch your latest 20 tweets and just populate your Nostar with that. So it would be like a kind of fairly seamless hop across to Nostar in a way. So my prediction is working on that. My other prediction is next Friday when we do this show, because we can do all this funky on-screen graphic stuff now because the new OBS has been released. I'm going to try and hack together something where you can maybe an LNURL pay, because in LNURL pay you can add a memo comment. So you could pay, I don't know, 20 Satoshis, and then you could write a message, and then maybe we could have that message somehow fly up on the screen or something through some chat thing or on Discord or something. So I want to play around and sort of hack around playing with that, trying to make the video more interactive. It'd be pretty interesting. So watch out for Nostar being released hopefully this weekend. My client, because obviously it's a protocol and there's multiple clients being developed. So if anyone's interested in that, go on the Telegram. I think it's t.me, and then it's just Nostar, Nostr. Join us. It's a really interesting, great protocol technology. Not related to Bitcoin in any way, really, apart from the key thing. I'm looking forward to seeing that grow.
I would just like to remind everyone to check out the World Crypto Network audio podcast. I declared audio podcast bankruptcy this week, and I started updating from last week's Bitcoin group episode. So I've been updating it every single day. We've been doing the Today in Bitcoin show, just doing some basic news every day. If you guys want to join us for that, that's around 9 a.m. in the morning, West Coast time. And just give us a thumbs up on those episodes too. Even though they're short, it's good to give thumbs up so that YouTube knows they're good shows. And the podcast is on iTunes and Spotify and Spreaker and all the places where you get your podcasts. They'll show up first on this Spreaker thing. So if you want to get them first, check Spreaker. Otherwise, they'll roll out to the other ones as the RSS feed is updated. And it's my goal to download and update this podcast now. God willing that Google will let me download it and it won't get all delayed or something. But hopefully that'll work. Thanks for giving us a thumbs up. Thanks for joining us. I hope you guys had fun emptying out the Lightning wallet thing. That was cool. We've also been trying to do more Lightning stuff. I want to show you how easy it is. I waited a long time for the Lightning Network to be easy to use, and I think you could do it.
Live streaming is on.
Are we back?
We're back.
Dude, there's someone in the. This is cool actually. So part of the LNURL protocol, if you're dorky enough, go check it out on just Google LNURL GitHub, and then you'll be able to find the protocol on the GitHub. One of the cool things about it is you can add a prefix. So you have this LNURL like string of just scrambly numbers and letters and stuff, and that's the thing which your wallet uses to then send and receive information. However, if you just scan like that QR code with a regular normal QR code scanner, the QR code has actually also got in it a prefix, and the prefix is lnurl.com. I think it's like lightning something. So what it does is if you open it just as a URL, it'll go to LN bits, and then I think it gives you the option to like, do you want to claim these sats? You click on claim, and then it will build a wallet with the 500 sats in, like an Insta wallet, which you'll just have on your, on your phone or on your device or whatever, and it's an LN bits wallet. So I think someone's then asking whether they can like pull that out into Wallet of Satoshi. Yes, you can. Just in LN bits, just generate an invoice, not an invoice. Wallet of Satoshi generate an invoice. Take that invoice, give it to LN bits, and then LN bits will then pay out to the Wallet of Satoshi. But yeah, the Insta Wallet LNURL prefix thing is super cool.
One of the only remaining slightly difficult things about the Lightning Network is pretty much what you're describing there, Ben, is that you have to have the amount first. So yes, you could donate that to the fundraiser here, but you'd have to go to the Tallycoin webpage so that you can generate the invoice, right? So if you went right here, click $10, click Lightning, this little please wait, it's generating the invoice. Once this invoice is up, you could scan this and donate $10. The problem is, you don't have $10, you have like 50 cents or whatever Ben sent you. So you have to come back to this webpage.
Well, DJ Booth, I know DJ, Tallycoin, was your idea, and DJ Booth implemented it from World Crypto Network, because obviously you're often espousing these wonderful ideas, which then other people can go and build. And LNURL Pay now is pretty well supported by a lot of wallets, so there's no reason why he can't have just a static QR code, and then you could scan it with a Lightning wallet and just send small amounts or whatever. LNURL Pay would allow that, and you wouldn't need to click on the on the amount first.
Well, you gotta tell him how to do that, because that's something I like. Because I like the way that the old Bitcoin QR codes work. I was trying to refresh that page, but like, for example, this is just a generic Bitcoin QR code, so you can't use this with Lightning. It just won't work. But what I like about the generic Bitcoin QR code is you could put it on any show, or you could put it on a flyer, or you could put it on anywhere, a sticker or whatever. Someone could send you $5 through that sticker. I've always thought that was the neatest thing. Just since the beginning of Bitcoin, I was like, if I can make a show, it doesn't work, but if I put this like QR code, like right here, this is Ben's QR code, it's empty. But if that was like a send me money QR code, you could have sent me money through that over YouTube, over Jitsi, over Zoom. None of these people get a cut of it. None of them take it. And that's what I love about Tallycoin too, is that, and you can make your own fundraiser here. You don't have to just do my fundraiser. But if you go to tallyco.in, you have to type /s/pk9rs8 / which is kind of annoying. But you could do this where you go to the fundraiser, and you could do this for your own fundraiser to like raise money for a guitar or whatever you want to buy. And you just click the amount, then you click Lightning right here, and that will generate the QR code. And this works for any kind of fundraiser at Tallycoin. The other interesting thing about these Lightning QR codes is they expire. So there's a little counter right here, 300 seconds or whatever it is DJ Boost got set to, and it expires. But I don't know. I think we need to talk more about Lightning. We need to learn more about it. So I did a short tutorial earlier this week, and it's my goal to continue doing short tutorials and little like test things. My main theory is that we think Lightning's hard, but it's actually pretty easy. But it's the same thing as Bitcoin. You need to get $5 worth of Lightning, and you need to send $1 here and send $1 here and lose $1 and put $1 there and screw up and all the things that you did with Bitcoin. You just have to do them again with Lightning. And it sounds repetitive and boring, but it's new technology.
I think Bitcoin is beautifully elegant in the the way in which you can use a blockchain, and you can just create an address and then have money go to it, and you don't need to be running any software. And Lightning is a hot wallet, and it needs to be it needs to be connected in order for you to be able to send and receive funds. So it's a little bit under the hood. It's a little bit more complicated, but a lot of that stuff's been abstracted out now. So for the user, there's some great, like, non-custodial Lightning wallets you can download, you can run, and it has a little neutrino node running behind it, and you can connect it to your own blockchain or whatever. There's some great solutions which are being developed for Lightning now, and it's free and open source software, and we're all mucking about with it probably way earlier than we should be, but now it really feels like it's kind of come of age, and some of the solutions, some of the concepts which are being built on it are very functional and are working. It's beyond the minimal viable product. I would say this is the year where we really see it being used in all sorts of interesting and easy ways. So, and I think Alan, you're also part of that journey.
I agree with the people in the chat. They think it's complicated. There's too many words. But hopefully, if we talk about it enough and we do a lot of demos, we can explain it to you. We can get you to try it, and you can get comfortable with it, and we can move around money.
But it's it's that old thing, though, isn't it? Like,
end of the show, Ben.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say, but SMTP's complicated, and FTP's complicated. Like, the protocols are complicated until we make better clients.
Yep. Well, and we're getting there, and it's getting easier. But you just have to get that familiarity with the term. And if it's your first time hearing it, it's going to sound confusing, but it'll get better and better. And hopefully we can do that for you here at the World Crypto Network. So subscribe down below, give us a thumbs up, check out one of the other shows, check out one of Ben's shows with the Lightning tutorials. We got a bunch of those online, and we have stuff from the CCC, the Chaos Communications Conference, right here on the World Crypto Network. You guys can check that out. I'm going to go update the audio podcast now, so hopefully you can listen to this later. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.